Hello and welcome to Writer Rant, author advice in 5 minutes or less because I have to get back to writing and so do you. So today I want to talk a little bit about first chapters, and I know first chapters in books, it's your hook, right? It's their way to like, oh man, somebody just reads this first chapter, they'll be hooked, they'll totally want to read my book. And I get that, that is the way it should be. The problem is that when you're asking for a review, right? Don't send the first chapter of your book. I don't know how many times as a reviewer somebody said, hey, I see you review stuff on Amazon and so you might like my book. By the way, here's the entire first chapter of this book. And I'm like, I'm a busy guy. I get at least half a dozen review requests a week. So I was like, I'm not going to spend time reading this first chapter, right? You need to give me a good and succinct synopsis to say, hey, here's the genre. Here's what it's about. That's what you need. If you have to resort to essentially spamming a reviewer with your first chapter, which, let's be honest here, you are spamming them because they didn't ask for your first chapter, right? You're saying, hey, I think my first chapter is so great that you need to read it. It's a huge wall of text in an email, right? Like, let's say we're checking it on, a smartphone. Like, I'm not gonna sit through there and just scan through this entire first chapter. Like, my life is way busier than that. So it's like, if you think that that's what you need in order to get someone to read your book, you really got to work a lot better on your pitch and your synopsis, right? Because let's say you're in an elevator with someone and they're like, oh, hey, what do you do? It's like, well, I'm a writer. Oh, yeah, you have a book. It's like, yeah, well, what's your book about? You're not going to stand there in the elevator and essentially recite your entire first chapter. You got to have a synopsis. You got to have 2 sentences to say, hey, here's what this book's about. So, like, let's take the book that I'll be releasing later this year, 14 Year Father. It's like, oh yeah, I wrote a book. It's a memoir about me and my father over 20 years climbing all of Colorado's 14,000-foot mountains. Simple as that. I don't need to put the first chapter in there where it's like, oh hey, so when I was 8, I climbed this mountain and it was Gray's Peak and I didn't think I would ever climb anymore, but it's like, I'm not gonna put that in an elevator speech, right? So when you're really selling these things, because again, you're trying to sell it to the people who are going to review for you, because sometimes, yes, people will just accept your book for review no matter what, if it's an ebook or a paperback or whatever, and some people will just do that. So you think, oh yeah, no, hey, they read my first chapter and they think it's great. It's like, no, these people probably didn't read it. They probably just accept everything that comes their way because they have nothing better to do, which some of them do. I've had to stop accepting ebooks for a number of reasons. One of them is that I get so many requests and they're only in ebook. So anyways, that's beside the point. What I'm saying is your first chapter is great and it should be a great hook, but leave it for the Amazon preview, right? Because if they're really interested, it's like, hey, here's a synopsis, here's a title, which, if your title is really good too, then that can attract interest if you got a good cover, right? It's all these things, cover, synopsis, title, all those things should really attract people to your book before they even get to the first chapter, because the first chapter is the hook that will keep them interested to the end of the book, instead of just like, oh hey, I saw it. In fact, I'm reading a book right now, and it's like, hey, the title looked kind of interesting, the cover kind of looked interesting, the premise looked interesting, but then it just fell flat on its face right when I started reading. So again, you got to work on your your front game. Don't rely on the first chapter, because yeah, if you have it on Amazon and they have the hey sneak peek inside, then people can read your first chapter. Let them do it that way. Don't force your first chapter on a potential reviewer. So, what about you other reviewers out there? Have you gotten people just sending you the whole first chapter of their books? Do you read it? Do you not? Let us know. Let the other writers out there know so that they can stop doing this. If there's anything else out there that readers, writers, reviewers are annoyed with, drop a comment below and maybe I'll get to it in a future episode. So thanks for watching this week's Writer Rant. I'm Benjamin M. Weilert.